The unexpected customer. Sarah Chen wiped the grease from her hands and squinted at the vintage Tesla motors spread across her workbench. Montana sunlight streamed through the shop's dusty windows, catching motes of metal dust in its beams. The workshop smelled of oil, ozone, and the coffee she'd forgotten about hours ago. Her grandfather's old sign still hung outside. Chen's Repairs. We fix anything. These days, that meant everything from quantum computers to ancient farm equipment. The soft chime of her security system interrupted her concentration. She glanced at the monitor, expecting Mrs. Henderson with another malfunctioning kitchen robot. Instead, she saw nothing, just empty morning air shimmering strangely in front of her door. The door opened. The air rippled like heat waves off summer asphalt, and suddenly there was something, standing in her doorway. The figure stood over 7 feet tall, its form covered in what looked like liquid metal that flowed and shifted with each movement. Where a face should be, there was only a smooth, reflective surface that rippled like mercury. Sarah's hand instinctively moved toward the particle beam cutter under her workbench. She built it herself, more as an experiment than a weapon. But, "Please," the figure said, its voice resonating from everywhere and nowhere at once. "We mean no harm. We need your help." The liquid metal surface of its head parted, revealing a face that was almost human, but not quite. Iridescent scales caught the light, and eyes with vertical pupils regarded her with an intelligence that felt ancient. "I am Ambassador Vexera of the Collective," the being said. "And you, Sarah Chen, are our last hope." Sarah's hand moved away from the cutter. Her curiosity had always been stronger than her fear. "How do you know my name?" "We have been watching Earth for some time. Your species is unique. While you lack our technological advancement in many areas, you possess an innovative spirit we have not encountered elsewhere. And you, specifically, have a gift we desperately need." The ambassador moved forward, each step flowing like water. From within its liquid metal covering, it produced a device about the size of a basketball. It pulsed with an inner light that seemed to bend reality around it, creating subtle distortions in the air. "This is a quantum core," Vexera explained. "It powers our defensive systems, our ships, our civilization, and it is failing." Sarah stepped closer, her engineer's mind already analyzing the device. The surface was covered in patterns that seemed to shift and change as she looked at them, like a circuit board redesigning itself in real time. "Why bring it to me? Surely you have engineers." "We have the finest quantum physicists in 12 galaxies," Vexera agreed. "But they think like quantum physicists. You think differently. You see machines not as theoretical constructs, but as living things. We've watched you repair technology you couldn't possibly understand, simply by listening to it." Sarah knew what the ambassador meant. It had always been her secret talent, the thing that made her different. When she looked at machines, she didn't just see parts and systems. She saw patterns, rhythms, songs. Every device had its own melody, and when something was broken, she could hear the discord. She looked at the quantum core again. Beyond its shifting surface, she could hear something, like a symphony playing slightly out of tune. "How long?" she asked. "The core will fail completely in 7 Earth days. When it does, our defensive shields will collapse. The swarm will detect the failure immediately." Vexera's face rippled with what might have been concern. "They are difficult to explain in human terms. Imagine locusts, but made of dark matter and quantum entropy. They consume civilizations. Without our shields, Earth will be their next target." Sarah picked up her tablet and began scanning the core. The readings made no sense. The numbers seemed to change randomly. The graphs twisted in impossible ways. But underneath the chaos, she could still hear that discord, that broken melody trying to right itself. "I'll need to know everything about how it works," she said, already pulling up new diagnostic programs. "Every detail, every theory, every failed attempt at repair." "Of course," Vexera said, "but you will help." Sarah thought about her grandfather, who'd taught her that every broken thing could be fixed if you just listened hard enough. She thought about Earth, about humanity's endless drive to repair, rebuild, improve, about how every challenge was just a puzzle waiting to be solved. "Yes," she said, reaching for her tools. "I'll help, but I work better with music. Do you mind?" Without waiting for an answer, she pulled up her playlist. As AC/DC started playing through the workshop speakers, she could have sworn she saw the quantum core pulse in time with the beat. This, she thought, was going to be interesting. Beyond Earth's technology. "That's impossible," Sarah muttered, staring at her holographic display. The quantum core sat on her workbench, surrounded by a makeshift containment field she'd cobbled together from modified particle accelerator parts. 3 days had passed since Vexra's arrival, and she'd slept maybe 6 hours total. The numbers on her screen didn't just defy physics. They actively mocked it. According to her readings, the core existed in 17-dimensional states simultaneously, and half of those dimensions weren't supposed to exist. She rubbed her eyes, leaving a smudge of quantum coolant on her forehead. "The impossibility is precisely the point," Vexra said from their position near the window. The ambassador had barely moved in the past 72 hours, their liquid metal form reflecting the changing light like a living mercury sculpture. "Our engineers approached the problem with established quantum theory. Perhaps you could explain how you perceive it." Sarah grabbed her cold coffee, grimacing at the taste. "It's like, okay, you know how a car engine sounds when the timing's off. There's this rhythm that's not quite right. The quantum core has a rhythm too, but it's not just off, it's playing in keys that shouldn't exist." She walked around the workbench, studying the core from different angles. The shifting patterns on its surface had become familiar over the past few days, like a language she was slowly learning to read. "Your engineers treat it like a math problem. I think that's the issue. They're trying to solve equations when they should be listening to music." "Music?" Vextra's face rippled with what Sarah had learned was curiosity. "Everything vibrates," Sarah explained, pulling up a new holographic interface. "Quantum strings, dimensional brains, reality itself. It's all vibration. Music is just organized vibration. What if we stop trying to calculate the core's quantum states and start trying to harmonize with them instead?" She touched her tablet, and the workshop filled with a visualization of the core's energy patterns translated into sound. It was discordant, beautiful, and terrifying, like a symphony played by physics itself, but with crucial instruments out of tune. "Fascinating," Vexra said, moving closer. "In 12,000 years of quantum engineering, we never considered this approach." Sarah was already modifying her diagnostic programs, reconfiguring them to analyze harmonic patterns rather than quantum states. "The problem isn't in the math," she said, more to herself than to Vexra. "It's in the rhythm. The core is trying to maintain 17 different quantum frequencies at once, but they're not synchronized. It's like an orchestra where every musician is playing in a different time signature." She pulled up the quantum visualization she'd been working on. The hologram showed the core's energy flows as streams of light, each one pulsing to its own distinct pattern. "Look here," she pointed. "These 3 frequencies are almost in sync, but this 4th one is fighting against them. If we could just—" The core pulsed suddenly, sending a wave of quantum distortion through the workshop. Tools rattled, lights flickered, and for a brief moment, Sarah could have sworn she saw through the walls into other dimensions. "Warning," announced her workshop's eye. "Quantum stability declining. Containment field at 60%. "What's happening?" Vexra asked, their liquid metal form rippling with concern. "The desynchronization is getting worse," Sarah said, fingers flying over her controls. "The different quantum states are pulling further apart, like a string being stretched until it breaks," Vexra finished. "If that happens, the quantum cascade could tear a hole in space-time." Sarah thought quickly. The conventional approach wasn't working. Time to do what humans did best: improvise. Your engineers tried to force the quantum states back into alignment using calculated corrections, right? She was already reaching for her tools. But what if instead of fighting the desynchronization, we work with it? Explain. In music, sometimes you don't fix discord by eliminating it. You incorporate it. You take the offbeat and make it part of the rhythm. She began modifying the containment field, adjusting its frequency to match the core's most unstable quantum state. Instead of trying to force all 17 states back into perfect alignment, we let them find their own harmony. That is, Vexera paused, their face shifting through several expressions at once, completely contrary to every principle of quantum engineering we have developed. Exactly. Sarah grinned. Sometimes the best solutions are the ones that break all the rules. Now help me set up a quantum resonance chamber. And maybe cover your ears. This might get loud. She turned back to her workbench, mind racing with possibilities. The quantum core's discord was getting worse, but within that chaos, she could hear something else emerging. A new pattern, complex and beautiful, like jazz played on the strings of reality itself. Her grandfather had always said that the best mechanics didn't just fix things, they listened to them, understood them, helped them become what they were trying to be. As Sarah began calibrating her equipment, she wondered what the quantum core was trying to tell her, and what new impossible music they might create together. Racing against time. The quantum resonance chamber hummed with energy, casting ethereal shadows across Sarah's workshop. 5 days had passed since Vexera's arrival, and time was running out. Outside, military vehicles had begun gathering. Apparently, a quantum anomaly in rural Montana hadn't gone unnoticed. "They're here," Vexera announced, their liquid metal form reflecting red and blue lights from the vehicles outside. "Your government's response teams." Sarah barely looked up from her work. The quantum core sat in the center of her jury-rigged resonance chamber, surrounded by a complex array of modified speakers and quantum field generators. "They'll have to wait. We've got bigger problems." On her main display, 17 different quantum frequencies played out like sheet music from another dimension. She'd spent the last 48 hours composing what she called a quantum symphony, an intricate series of resonance patterns designed to bring the core's chaotic frequencies into harmony. "The swarm has changed course," Vexera said quietly. "They've detected the core's instability. Our analysts estimate they'll reach Earth in 36 hours. Sarah's hands paused over her controls. "You didn't mention they were that close." "I didn't want to add to your pressure." A sharp knock at the workshop door interrupted them. "Ms. Chen," a formal voice called. "This is Colonel Hayes, United States Air Force. We need you to open up." Sarah took a deep breath, then pressed her workshop's intercom. "Little busy right now, Colonel. World-saving stuff. Give me about an hour." "Ms. Chen, we've detected quantum signals that suggest you're working with unauthorized extraterrestrial technology. We need to secure." "Look," Sarah cut in about 36 hours, Earth is either going to be saved or destroyed. Your choice if you want to help or get in the way." There was a long pause. Finally, "You have 1 hour. Then we're coming in." Sarah turned back to her work. The quantum core's frequencies were growing more erratic by the minute. The discord in its quantum melody was spreading, threatening to tear apart the fabric of space-time itself. "Your method," Vexera observed, moving closer to study the holographic displays. "It defies all conventional quantum theory. Our engineers would say it's impossible." "Yeah, well," Sarah adjusted a setting, watching the quantum harmonics shift. "Humans specialize in impossible. We're too stubborn to accept limitations. Hand me that quantum spanner." As Vexera passed her the tool, the core pulsed violently. Reality flickered around them. For a split second, Sarah saw through the walls again, glimpsing strange geometries and impossible colors. "Warning," her workshop AI announced. "Quantum stability at critical levels. Containment breach imminent." Sarah's fingers flew over her controls. The frequencies are accelerating faster than we predicted. The core's trying to occupy 22-dimensional states now. If we don't stabilize it soon, the quantum cascade will begin, Vexra finished, and Earth will be the epicenter. Sarah studied her quantum frequency displays. The patterns were chaos given form. Mathematics turned to madness. But within that chaos, she could still hear it. The underlying rhythm, the beat of reality itself. Your engineers tried to force order onto chaos, she said, making rapid adjustments to her resonance chamber. But sometimes chaos isn't the enemy. Sometimes it's just a different kind of harmony. She began implementing her plan, using her modified speakers to broadcast specific quantum frequencies. Each one was carefully designed to resonate with a different dimensional state of the core. But instead of trying to force them back into alignment, she let them drift, adding new harmonics that bridged the gaps between states. "What are you doing?" Vexra asked, their liquid metal form rippling with what might have been alarm. "Creating quantum jazz," Sarah replied, not taking her eyes off her work. "Instead of fighting the chaos, we're going to ride it. Every new dimensional state the core creates, we match it, harmonize with it, make it part of the pattern." The air in the workshop began to sing with strange energies. Tools floated off workbenches. Reality itself seemed to vibrate in time with Sarah's quantum symphony. "This is madness," Vexra said, but there was wonder in their voice. "That's humanity for you." Sarah's hands danced across her controls like a conductor leading an impossible orchestra. "We look at the impossible and say, why not? Now let's see if we can teach this quantum core how to improvise." Outside, the military vehicle sirens wailed, but Sarah barely heard them. She was listening to something else now, the sound of quantum physics learning to dance to a human beat, and maybe, just maybe, the music that would save the world. The human element. The quantum core erupted in a shower of dimensional fractures, sending cascading waves of reality distortions through Sarah's workshop. Tools phased through solid matter. Time flickered like a broken video feed, and for one terrifying moment, she saw the approaching swarm through a tear in space, a vast darkness consuming the light of distant stars. Containment failing, her workshop AI warned. Multiple dimensional breaches detected. Colonel Hayes' voice crackled over the intercom. "Chen, we're picking up catastrophic quantum readings. We're coming in." "Wait," Sarah shouted, her fingers flying across her controls. "Just give me 5 more minutes." She turned to Vexra, who was helping stabilize the resonance chamber. "The core's fighting the harmonics. It's like it's learned our rhythm and is actively trying to play against it." "Impossible," Vexra said, their liquid metal form distorting as reality warped around them. "The core is a machine, not a living thing." "Are you sure about that?" Sarah watched the quantum frequency displays, seeing patterns emerge that shouldn't have been possible. "Look at these waves. They're not random anymore. They're responsive, adaptive. The core isn't just malfunctioning, it's evolving." The workshop door burst open. Colonel Hayes led a team of soldiers in specialized quantum-shielded armor, their weapons trained on the resonance chamber. Behind them came scientists in protective gear, carrying equipment Sarah recognized as experimental quantum containment tech. "Step away from the device," Hayes ordered. "You don't understand," Sarah said, not moving from her controls. "We're on the verge of something here. The core isn't just broken. It's trying to become something new." "She's right," one of the military scientists said, staring at his readings. "These patterns, they're unlike anything we've ever seen. It's as if the quantum states are self-organizing into some kind of higher dimensional structure." Sarah's mind raced. Her grandfather had always told her that sometimes machines broke because they were trying to become something else. "Vexra, you said your people built this core 12,000 years ago, right? What if it's been trying to evolve all this time? What if the malfunction is actually metamorphosis?" Vexra's face rippled with sudden understanding, like a larva becoming a butterfly, but on a quantum scale. "Exactly." Sarah's hands moved with new purpose, adjusting her quantum harmonics. We've been trying to force it back into its original state, but that's like trying to shove a butterfly back into its cocoon. Instead, she began modifying the resonance patterns, creating space within the quantum frequencies. Instead of imposing harmony, she was opening doors, creating pathways through dimensional space. "What are you doing?" Hayes demanded. "Giving it room to become what it's trying to be," Sarah replied. She looked at the military scientists. "Your containment tech, can you modify it to act as a quantum support structure? Like scaffolding?" The lead scientist stepped forward, already adjusting his equipment. "Theoretically, yes, if we synchronize with your resonance patterns." "Do it," Hayes ordered, lowering his weapon. "Everyone else, clear the building." If this goes wrong, they didn't need him to finish the thought. As the soldiers evacuated, Sarah, the military scientists, and Vexera worked to create a safe space for what was about to happen. The quantum core's light had become blinding, its frequencies singing in keys that human ears couldn't perceive but human hearts could feel. 20 minutes until swarm contact, Vexera announced. Sarah took a deep breath, looking at the sophisticated military equipment now integrated with her jerry-rigged resonance chamber. Human ingenuity and alien technology, working together to midwife the birth of something entirely new. "Okay," she said, placing her hands on the final controls. "Let's see what you're trying to become." She initiated the sequence. Reality held its breath. And in the heart of a rural Montana workshop, the impossible began to take shape. Humanity's first stand. The quantum core blazed with impossible light, its surface rippling like liquid starlight. The combined resonance chamber, Sarah's jury-rigged creation, merged with military quantum tech, hummed with power as reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Through the dimensional tiers still flickering around the workshop, they could see the swarm approaching Earth, a void that devoured light itself. 5 minutes to contact, Vexera announced, their liquid metal form reflecting the core's transformative glow. Sarah watched the quantum frequency displays, her heart pounding. The core's patterns had evolved beyond anything their instruments could properly measure. It was singing in frequencies that existed between dimensions, creating harmonies that shouldn't have been possible. "Look," the military scientist breathed, pointing to his readings. "The quantum states aren't just harmonizing. They're multiplying, creating new dimensions of their own." Sarah nodded, understanding flooding through her. It's not just becoming something new. It's creating new spaces to exist in. She turned to Vexera. "Your people built this core to power your defenses, but what if that was just its larval stage? What if it was always meant to become something more?" The workshop's reality barriers groaned as the swarm drew closer. Through the tiers in space-time, Sarah could see their vast darkness beginning to eclipse the sun. "Even if you're right," Hayes said, "how does this help us stop them?" "Because," Sarah replied, making final adjustments to the resonance chamber, "sometimes the best defense isn't a shield or a weapon. Sometimes it's transformation." She looked at Vexera. "Your people have been fighting the swarm for millennia, trying to keep them out. What if instead we give them somewhere else to go?" Understanding rippled across Vexera's liquid metal features. "The new dimensions the core is creating." "Exactly." Sarah's fingers danced across her controls. "We're not just giving the core room to evolve. We're letting it create whole new spaces in reality. Places the swarm might find more interesting than our universe." The core's light reached a blinding intensity. Sarah's instruments showed it was now operating in 37 dimensional states simultaneously, with more emerging every second. Each new state created its own pocket universe, filled with energy patterns that sang like cosmic wind chimes. 1 minute to contact, Vexera announced. Sarah took a deep breath. "Okay, let's invite them in. Everyone ready?" Hayes nodded grimly, his soldiers taking position around the workshop. The scientists monitored their equipment, ready to modify the quantum fields at Sarah's signal. Vexera stood by the dimensional monitoring station, their form rippling with anticipation. "Now," Sarah said, and initiated the final sequence. The quantum core's song reached a crescendo. Reality split open, not in the chaotic tiers of before, but in perfectly orchestrated doorways. Through them, they could see spaces that human minds could barely comprehend. Dimensions where energy flowed like water, where time moved in spirals, where the very concepts of existence took on new forms. The swarm arrived. Sarah watched through the dimensional windows as the vast darkness noticed the new doorways. For a moment that felt like eternity, the cosmic predator paused, sensing the quantum harmony singing from these new spaces. "Come on," Sarah whispered. "Take the bait." The swarm moved, but instead of descending toward Earth, it began flowing through the dimensional doorways, drawn to the exotic energies of the new spaces, like a river finding a new course to the sea. "It's working." The military scientist's voice was triumphant. "They're being drawn into the new dimensions." Sarah watched her displays as the swarm diverted itself, stream by stream, into the quantum core's newly created spaces. "We're not defeating them," she said. "We're giving them somewhere else to go, somewhere they can exist without destroying other worlds." "Remarkable," Vexor said softly. "In 12,000 years of fighting them, we never considered simply making room for them to exist elsewhere." The last of the swarm disappeared through the dimensional doorways. The quantum core's light settled into a steady, peaceful glow, maintaining the new spaces it had created while returning to a stable state in normal spacetime. "Well," Hayes said, holstering his weapon, "I suppose I have a very interesting report to write." Sarah laughed, the tension finally breaking. "Good luck explaining this one to the Pentagon." She turned to Vexra. "So, what happens now?" The ambassador's form shifted thoughtfully. "Now we learn. Your approach to the quantum core's evolution has opened up entirely new fields of physics. The collective would be honored to establish a more formal relationship with Earth, to explore these discoveries together." "I'd like that," Sarah said, looking at the transformed quantum core. It hummed contentedly, like a cat that had finally found its true form. "Though maybe next time, let's not wait until the last minute for first contact." Vexor's form rippled in what she now recognized as laughter. "Agreed. Though I must say, you humans have a remarkable talent for last-minute solutions." Sarah smiled, running her hand along her old workbench. Her grandfather's sign still hung outside. "Chen's Repairs. We fix anything." She hadn't known at the time just how prophetic those words would be. "That's the thing about humans," she said, watching the quantum core's peaceful glow. "We don't just fix things. We help them become what they were always meant to be." She paused, then grinned. "Also, we're really good at improvising when the universe throws us curveballs." As the morning sun rose over Montana, painting the workshop in golden light, Sarah Chen began drafting plans to modify her repair shop sign. After all, Chen's Repairs. We fix anything, including quantum physics, had a nice ring to it.